A signal from the future, it arrived before it was sent. The universe just broke one of its most fundamental rules. A signal arrived on Earth before it was even sent. Not by milliseconds, not by chance. Independent observatories across continents, atomic clocks, and isolated servers all confirmed the same impossible fact. The effect came before the cause. Physics, the cornerstone of reality, had been shattered. The rule that underpins every law, every technology, every observation, cause must precede effect, had been defied. At first, scientists thought it was a mistake. Atomic clocks drift, software mislabels data, signals get corrupted, errors happen every day, but this anomaly refused to vanish. The logs were double-checked. The timestamps recalibrated, observatories cross-verified, and every time the result was identical. The signal existed before it should have. Then came the second shock. It wasn't distorted, it wasn't random. Noise in the universe is chaotic, messy, fleeting. This signal was precise, clean, structured, deliberate. Every pulse carried intent, every sequence suggested intelligence. Nature does not behave like this. The universe does not send messages from the future, yet this one had. Questions multiplied faster than anyone could answer. Where did it come from? Who or what sent it? And most terrifyingly, what does it mean for reality itself? Time is supposed to flow forward, unwavering and absolute. It is the canvas on which everything we understand is painted. Planets orbit, stars explode, light travels, all follow the arrow of time. But this signal refused the arrow. It forced the impossible into the present. And it was persistent. It returned, repeated, refused to be ignored. The universe was trying to speak deliberately, methodically, in a language humanity was only beginning to glimpse. Some sequences hinted at structure, patterns that seemed almost purposeful. Others suggested knowledge of events that had not yet happened, probabilities aligned in ways no natural process could produce. Every analysis made the signal more unsettling. It was as if the sender anticipated the observation itself, responding to every attempt to decode it. The silence that followed each pulse was just as eerie. Nothing else in the cosmos behaves like this. Stars flicker, quasars hum, black holes roar, but all obey the rules, all follow causality. This signal did not. It was more than an anomaly, it was a revelation. It was a challenge, a whisper from the universe telling humanity, "You are not ready to comprehend me, but you will try." And in that realization, every scientist involved felt the same impossible mixture of awe and fear. The universe had just shown a glimpse of something far stranger than humanity had ever imagined. This was not a glitch, not interference, not a coincidence. This was intentional, and it was only the beginning. Why this should be impossible? To truly grasp the significance of what the scientists were witnessing, it is essential to understand why this phenomenon should not exist at all. Every message, every photon, every ripple traveling through space obeys immutable rules. Nothing can travel faster than light. Nothing can circumvent the arrow of time. Cause precedes effect. This is not an assumption, it is the foundation of physics. Without it, reality as we know it cannot function. Every law, every calculation, every experiment in the history of science depends on it. And yet here it was, a signal that arrived before it was sent. The discovery immediately challenged everything humanity thought it knew. From Newton to Einstein, every principle relied on time moving forward. The idea that a message could defy this principle is not just counterintuitive, it is impossible, and yet the data persisted. Initial reactions were cautious. Perhaps the atomic clocks had drifted slightly. Perhaps software had mislabeled the data. Perhaps the signals overlapped with cosmic interference, creating a false impression of precognition. These explanations were comforting, plausible, and simple. They aligned with everything scientists expected to see. But as verification progressed, these possibilities were systematically eliminated. Independent observatories cross-checked their instruments. Redundant atomic timekeeping systems in separate continents were consulted. Backup logs and satellite systems were compared. Every single verification returned the same unnerving result. The signal was real. It had arrived before it could exist. The implications were staggering. If the timestamps were correct, then this was no mere anomaly. It was a direct violation of causality. Cause and effect, the most fundamental relationship in the universe, had been inverted. What had always been considered an unbreakable law was now uncertain. Scientists faced a difficult reality. Exotic theories might explain part of the anomaly, Wormholes, closed time-like curves, or quantum entanglement might account for strange behaviors in specific circumstances. Yet none of these explanations accounted for the precision, structure, and repeatability of this signal. None justified a coherent message arriving before it was sent. And then came the realization that caused unease to ripple through the teams. The signal was structured. It carried information. It was deliberate. Its clarity suggested an intelligence behind it. Random cosmic noise does not encode information. Nature does not engineer messages that arrive from the future. If the signal was artificial, then the implications went far beyond physics. They challenged everything about how we understand cause, effect, and even existence itself. Every second the signal persisted reinforced a possibility that was difficult to accept. Time may not be strictly linear. Events in the future may influence the past. History may be far more malleable than human understanding allows. And the most chilling question of all emerged. If this signal had been intentionally sent, who or what was capable of creating a message that could arrive before it existed, and why? For now, there was no answer. Only the growing certainty that the universe had just shown humanity a truth too strange to ignore and far too impossible to explain. Every hypothesis raised more questions. Every verification confirmed the impossibility. And as the scientists stared at the data, one fact became painfully clear. The rules they had trusted, the laws they had built their understanding on, were no longer absolute. This signal was not just unusual, it was impossible. And it had arrived. The signal is not random. Most signals from space are noise, chaotic bursts of electromagnetic energy, random fluctuations that computers and scientists sift through daily. They are meaningless byproducts of the vast, unpredictable cosmos. Patterns are rare, structures are rarer, and messages from the universe itself are almost unheard of. But this signal was different. From the moment the data was carefully examined, patterns began to emerge, repetitions in the waveform, mathematical sequences embedded in its structure, layers of information that suggested intentional design. It was not random, it was deliberate. It was as if some intelligence had sent it with a purpose. Statistical tests confirmed it. Compression algorithms were applied, entropy calculations were run, chaos analyses were repeated over and over. Every test reinforced the same shocking conclusion: the signal carried structure, order, and meaning. It was engineered, it had intent. And then came the unnerving part. The timestamp anomaly remained consistent. Every signal was verified to have arrived before it had been transmitted. No delay, no error, no exception. The universe had delivered a message from the future, encoded and precise. The implications are difficult to overstate. If a signal can arrive before it exists, and if it carries a deliberate pattern, then the sender may not exist yet in our timeline. It may be a form of communication from a point beyond the present, beyond our understanding of time itself. The structure of the message itself amplified the mystery. It was not a simple repetition. It had layers, embedded sequences, and variations that suggested complex intent. Every element was calculated, designed, and encoded in a manner too sophisticated to be a coincidence. Even without fully understanding its meaning, scientists could tell it was intelligent. Speculation ran wild. Could it be alien? Could it be human? Could it be a natural phenomenon we had never imagined? Every conventional explanation failed. Natural sources produce noise, not structured sequences that obey impossible timestamps. Physical laws, as we know them, cannot account for a signal with order that arrives before its origin. The scientific community was torn between skepticism and awe. Some resisted the implications, questioning every calculation, every instrument, every assumption. Others could not ignore the evidence. The signal was real, structured, and intentionally encoded, and it had arrived from a point in time that should not exist. The deeper the analysis went, the more disturbing it became. Every new observation raised more questions than answers. The universe appeared to have created a paradox, one that defied explanation and forced humanity to confront the impossible. This was no ordinary discovery. It was not merely a signal. It was a revelation, a glimpse into a reality that might not obey the rules we have lived by for centuries. And as scientists continued to study it, one chilling truth became clear. Whatever had sent the message had mastered a mechanism far beyond human understanding. It had broken the ultimate barrier, sending information back through time itself. The message was no longer just an anomaly. It was a challenge, a puzzle, a warning, and the more humanity looked, the more impossible it became to ignore. The signal existed, it was structured, it carried intent, and it arrived before it existed. The universe had just rewritten the rules. The timestamp paradox defies. The more scientists studied the signal, the less comfortable they became. Every verification, every recalculation, every independent observation only confirmed the impossible. The signal had arrived before it was sent, every single time. At first, it was tempting to dismiss the anomaly as an error. Human mistakes, software glitches, misaligned atomic clocks, or cosmic interference had fooled observers countless times before. But every potential explanation was eliminated. Multiple instruments located on different continents and operating independently all confirmed the same fact. The timestamps were correct. The signal existed before its origin. This was not just a minor anomaly, it was a direct challenge to the concept of causality. Cause and effect, the principle upon which all science is built, had been inverted. The universe itself appeared to be defying its own rules. The paradox was simple to describe, yet impossible to accept. A message from the future had been delivered to the present, and it was not random. It was structured, precise, and deliberate. The sender, whoever or whatever it was, had managed to encode information into a signal that traversed time in reverse. Scientists struggled to model this. Every physical theory they relied on failed to provide a satisfactory explanation. Wormholes, closed time-like curves, quantum entanglement, and other exotic physics offered partial insights, but none accounted for both the signal's structure and its chronological anomaly. The data refused to fit within the boundaries of known reality. The signal's consistency was perhaps the most disturbing aspect. It was not degraded, not distorted, not corrupted. It remained intact across multiple receptions and repeated analyses. The universe had delivered this information perfectly, intact, and repeatedly, despite the impossible timeline. Even the most experienced physicists felt a sense of unease. This was more than just a scientific puzzle, it was a philosophical one. The signal forced humanity to confront questions that had long been theoretical. Could time be nonlinear? Could events in the future influence the past? Could the universe operate according to rules that humans had never imagined? The implications for reality itself were staggering. If the signal could travel backward in time, then our understanding of free will, history, and even existence could be flawed. Everything that seemed fixed, predictable, or sequential might be far more fluid than anyone had realized. And yet, the signal persisted. Quiet, unassuming, relentless, it carried with it an undeniable sense of purpose. Someone or something had crafted this message with intent. It was as if the universe itself were trying to communicate across time, leaving breadcrumbs for humanity to discover. Every scientist who examined it was forced to confront a growing discomfort. The more they studied the paradox, the more it seemed that the universe had deliberately broken the rules in a way that was precise, intelligible, and impossible. This was not chaos, this was deliberate design. And the most unsettling realization of all was this: the anomaly could not be contained, ignored, or explained away. It existed, it was structured, and it had arrived before it could exist. The universe had just rewritten one of its most fundamental rules. Time was no longer a given. Cause and effect were no longer absolute, and humanity was now forced to stare directly into the heart of a paradox that might redefine reality itself. Possible explanations. Once the paradox was undeniable, scientists could no longer dismiss it. Every observation pointed to a signal that arrived before it existed. Every timestamp, every verification, every independent measurement confirmed it. The universe had presented humanity with a phenomenon that defied all known laws. The natural next step was to search for explanations. The first hypothesis was technical. Perhaps some unknown instrumentation error had corrupted the timing, some hidden flaw in software or data handling. Every conceivable human mistake was considered, tested, and rejected. The clocks were perfect. The observatories were independent. The signal was verified by instruments on multiple continents. There was no human error, no faulty recording, no data misinterpretation. The second hypothesis turned to the cosmos itself. Could there be some natural phenomenon that allowed information to travel backward through time? Some exotic cosmic alignment, gravitational lensing, or interference pattern? Again, the data refused to comply. Nothing in astrophysics, relativity, or quantum mechanics accounted for a structured, intelligible signal arriving before it was sent. Attention then turned to theoretical physics. Could wormholes, closed time-like curves, or quantum entanglement offer an explanation? Each concept has been explored in the realm of advanced theoretical studies. Wormholes, for instance, might allow shortcuts through spacetime. Closed time-like curves suggest loops in time where events can repeat. Quantum entanglement can instantaneously connect particles across space. All of these ideas are fascinating, but none perfectly fit the observation. A wormhole, even if it existed, would distort the signal, introduce interference, or degrade information. Closed time-like curves remain purely hypothetical and are unlikely to produce structured signals. Quantum entanglement does not transmit usable information faster than light, much less backward through time. Each hypothesis answered part of the puzzle and failed at another. The anomaly was simultaneously physical, temporal, and informational. It violated the speed of light, disrupted causality, and carried deliberate structure. It was impossible by every measure. Some scientists speculated more radically. Perhaps the message was artificial, crafted by an intelligence capable of mastering the laws of physics in ways humanity could barely imagine. The signal could be a communication from an advanced civilization, one that had learned to manipulate time itself. Others dared to entertain a concept even more unsettling. Could it be humanity itself sending information from the future? The theory seemed absurd, yet it fit the known data. If causality is not absolute, then perhaps events in our timeline are influenced by actions yet to occur. Perhaps this signal is a glimpse into the mechanics of a universe that folds time back on itself. Every potential explanation raised more questions than answers. Each theory, from the plausible to the extraordinary, deepened the mystery. The signal existed, it was structured, and it had arrived before its own origin. And through all of this, the signal remained unchanged, persistent, consistent, defiant. It seemed almost aware of the scrutiny, as if it had been designed to be discovered, examined, and wondered at. At this point, scientists were forced to acknowledge an uncomfortable truth. Whatever the explanation, it would not only rewrite physics textbooks, it would challenge humanity's understanding of time, causality, and reality itself. The universe had presented a riddle without precedent. The signal demanded interpretation but offered none. Its existence alone was proof that reality is far stranger and more complex than humanity had ever dared to imagine. And as the scientific teams struggled with this, one thought began to crystallize in their minds. This signal was no accident. It was deliberate, and it was only the beginning of a journey into a mystery that could change everything humanity believed about the universe. The message content. The signal was no longer just a paradox, it was a message. Scientists approached its analysis with cautious fascination. Every sequence, every layer. Every embedded pattern suggested intelligence. This was not random interference. It carried logic, structure, and intent, and the more they dissected it, the more unsettling it became. The message did not speak in words, not in any human language. It communicated through a framework of numbers, sequences, and symbolic repetitions. Complex mathematical structures emerged, sequences that seemed deliberately designed to encode information, perhaps even a language of pure logic. It was a code, but one unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Patterns repeated, but with variations. Layers nested within layers. Fragments of sequences mirrored each other, suggesting deliberate replication, intentional design. It was almost like listening to a melody that rearranged itself unpredictably, yet harmoniously, across time. The timestamp anomaly persisted. Every component of the message aligned perfectly with its impossible chronology. Each repetition arrived before its preceding sequence had been transmitted. Every fragment, every nested layer seemed to exist simultaneously in a temporal loop. This observation was enough to unsettle even the most rational scientists. The signal was not only structured, it was intelligent, deliberate, and aware of the passage of time. It was as if the sender anticipated the reception, the analysis, the very curiosity it would provoke. Speculation became inevitable. Could it be alien? A civilization that had mastered the fabric of time itself, sending information backward across the ages? Could it be human? Perhaps a distant future version of humanity reaching across centuries, encoding instructions for survival or guidance in a universe we are only beginning to understand. Every new layer of analysis revealed something more unsettling. Some patterns hinted at knowledge of events that had not yet occurred. Probabilities, configurations, cosmic constants, and even experimental data appeared to be embedded in the sequences. It was as if the message contained foresight, a reflection of the future embedded in its very design. The scientists debated what it could mean. Could the universe itself be sending the message? Could it be a natural intelligence embedded within the laws of physics, reaching backward in time to communicate with those capable of decoding it? Or was it something far beyond comprehension, something not bound by conventional notions of existence or causality? Every hypothesis was unsettling, every analysis raised more questions, and yet the signal persisted, silent and precise. It waited for humanity to decode it, to confront the paradox, to acknowledge its impossible existence. And perhaps the most disturbing realization was this: the signal's content might never be fully understood. Its logic could be alien, its mathematics non-human, its structure beyond the capacity of human comprehension. Yet its presence alone, its precision, and its intelligence were undeniable. This was not a simple anomaly. It was a glimpse into a reality where cause and effect are no longer absolute, where intelligence can manipulate time, and where information can arrive before it is created. The message was real, it was intelligent, and it existed in a way that forced every observer to question everything they thought they knew about time, reality, and the universe itself. The signal was no longer just a paradox, it was a revelation. The disturbing interpretation. As scientists delved deeper into the signal, an unnerving pattern began to emerge. The message was not merely structured or intelligent. It appeared to reference events, conditions, and information that should not exist yet. Variables aligned with astronomical phenomena, probabilities, and even technological developments that humanity had only recently begun to understand. The data hinted at knowledge of the future encoded within the present. At first, it was subtle, a number that matched a discovery yet to be published, a sequence that mirrored a cosmic event not yet observed, but the pattern persisted and multiplied. Each layer of the message suggested foresight so precise it could not be accidental. It was as if the signal had been composed with knowledge of humanity's future actions, our discoveries, and our questions before we even asked them. The realization sent chills through the teams. The implications were enormous. This was no ordinary message. It was predictive, deliberate, and impossibly advanced. The intelligence behind it was capable of anticipating the decisions, experiments, and even the thoughts of those analyzing it. The natural explanation failed completely. No random cosmic process could encode such structured foresight. No human interference could account for its timestamps or its layered sequences. Physics itself seemed inadequate to describe what they were witnessing. Speculation became unavoidable. Could this be an alien civilization manipulating time? Perhaps an intelligence that had mastered communication across temporal boundaries, embedding instructions, warnings, or knowledge in a format designed to be discovered centuries before it would be sent. Some scientists dared to consider an even more terrifying possibility. Could this be a message from the future of humanity itself? A civilization that had solved the greatest challenges of physics and time manipulation, sending information back through history. The theory was radical, almost heretical, yet the evidence demanded consideration. And then came the most unsettling observation. The signal was not passive, it appeared adaptive. Analysis showed subtle adjustments in the sequences each time the message was decoded. It was as if it was responding to human scrutiny, tailoring itself to ensure comprehension or perhaps to manipulate the observer's understanding. This was no longer an anomaly, it was an interaction, a dialogue across time, but one that humanity had not initiated. The signal had agency. It was deliberate, intelligent, and profoundly aware of the consequences of its reception. Philosophical and existential questions flooded the minds of those involved. If this intelligence exists beyond time, if it can send messages into the past, then the universe is not a static, predictable place. Cause and effect are mutable. History is no longer fixed. Reality itself may be far stranger and more malleable than humanity can comprehend. And yet the most frightening thought remained. If such intelligence exists, capable of sending information backward through time, what is its ultimate purpose? Observation, guidance, control, or something beyond comprehension, something that defies human notions of morality or intention? The signal existed, it was intelligent, it was adaptive, and it had arrived before it could exist. The universe had just shown humanity a glimpse of a reality that was not linear, not stable, and not fully understandable. A reality in which time could bend, knowledge could precede discovery, and the future could reach back to influence the present. For the scientists observing it, one truth became impossible to ignore. The signal was not just a message, it was a challenge, a riddle, a force that demanded humanity confront the impossible. And the more they studied, the more terrifyingly clear it became. The signal had arrived for a reason, and humanity was only beginning to understand what that reason might be. CONSEQNCS for humanity. The more scientists studied the signal, the more unsettling the implications became. This was no longer an abstract curiosity. This was a phenomenon that forced humanity to confront its own understanding of reality, time, and existence. If the signal truly arrived before it was sent, then our most basic assumptions about cause and effect could be flawed. Every scientific principle built on linear time suddenly required reconsideration. The universe may not operate the way humans have believed for centuries. Events that we thought fixed could, in fact, be influenced by future knowledge. Decisions may be guided by consequences that have not yet occurred. History itself may be far more fluid than previously imagined. The consequences for human understanding of science alone were staggering. Physics, astronomy, cosmology, and even mathematics might require rewriting. The models that explain the formation of stars, the movement of planets, and the expansion of the universe were built on the assumption that time flows in one direction. If that assumption is wrong, then everything from predicting cosmic events to the most mundane experiments in particle physics might need reevaluation. Yet the implications were far broader. Philosophy, psychology, and even ethics were now entangled with the enigma. Free will, a cornerstone of human thought, came under scrutiny. If the future can influence the present, if information can arrive before it exists, then how autonomous are our choices? Are humans truly making decisions? Or are they following instructions embedded in a universe far older and far more intelligent than we have imagined? The signal also implied an intelligence far beyond humanity's comprehension. Whoever or whatever sent it had mastered time itself, manipulating sequences, events, and knowledge with precision that defies imagination. It was not just a message. It was a demonstration of control, a testament to power over the very structure of reality. And then came the chilling possibility. If one intelligence can send messages backward in time, might there be others? Perhaps the universe is filled with civilizations, entities, or intelligences operating beyond human perception, all capable of influencing past and present events. Humanity may not occupy the center of time or knowledge at all. The signal suggested that the cosmos is not silent or indifferent, but active, deliberate, and incomprehensibly complex. As the research continued, another question became unavoidable. What is the purpose of this message? Was it a warning, guidance, a test, or simply an observation, a way for an intelligence to measure humanity's capacity for comprehension? The content of the signal hinted at knowledge, probability, and foresight. It challenged observers to understand patterns that transcend conventional physics. The psychological weight of the discovery was immense. Scientists reported feelings of awe, fear, and uncertainty. The anomaly forced them to acknowledge that humanity is profoundly unprepared for the universe's deeper truths. For every answer, the signal produced a dozen more questions. For every layer decoded, an even more complex layer revealed itself. And yet, despite the fear and confusion, one realization remained undeniable. Humanity had been given a glimpse into a reality that was not linear, not predictable, and not fully comprehensible. The universe had communicated across time. It had demonstrated intelligence and purpose. It had challenged everything humanity assumed about causality, knowledge, and existence. The signal was no longer a puzzle. It was a revelation, and its consequences were just beginning to unfold. Decoding the signal. With the paradox fully established and the implications understood, scientists turned their attention to a single, urgent question. What did the signal actually say? Decoding began with caution. Every sequence, every pulse, every timestamp was meticulously analyzed. The challenge was monumental. This was not human language, not Morse code, not even binary in a conventional sense. It was an entirely new form of communication, one that seemed to operate on principles beyond familiar mathematics and physics. The first step was pattern recognition. Supercomputers ran algorithms designed to detect repetition, symmetry, and structure. Layers of sequences were examined, cross-referenced, and compared. Almost immediately, subtle consistencies emerged. Certain pulses repeated with exact precision, yet shifted slightly depending on their position in the overall sequence. Nested structures appeared, sequences within sequences, each obeying its own internal logic. Statistical analysis revealed more than random repetition. Compression tests indicated that the signal carried information density far higher than anything previously observed in cosmic phenomena. Every fragment seemed optimized for efficiency, conveying maximum data with minimal energy. The signal had been engineered, it was deliberate. And then came the most startling observation. Some patterns corresponded to physical constants, astronomical phenomena, and mathematical relationships that humanity had only recently discovered. In other words, the message seemed to know what humans would know in the future. Certain sequences mirrored discoveries that had not yet been made at the time the signal was received. It was as if the message contained foresight embedded in its very structure. Attempts to translate the information into human concepts were maddeningly inconclusive. Symbols and sequences hinted at meaning, but resisted definitive interpretation. It was not a language in the traditional sense. It was logic encoded in a format designed to convey understanding without words. The more scientists decoded, the more they realized they were grappling with intelligence operating on a scale and comprehension far beyond human capacity. The adaptive nature of the signal became evident as researchers experimented with different decoding methods. Subtle shifts occurred depending on which algorithm was applied, suggesting that the message was aware of the attempts to understand it. It was interactive, responsive, and deliberate. Every test seemed anticipated, every effort countered or enhanced to ensure observation. The first tentative interpretations were unsettling. Some sequences appeared to describe events in cosmic history and potential future outcomes. Others suggested knowledge of physical laws that humanity had not yet discovered, and some hinted at technological concepts far beyond current capabilities. It was as if the message carried a roadmap of knowledge, partially accessible, tantalizingly close, yet just out of reach. Discussion among scientists grew heated. How could this exist? How could intelligence manipulate time and information in ways that defied causality? Every decoding attempt revealed glimpses of insight, and every glimpse raised more questions. It was not simply a signal. It was a revelation, a puzzle, and a test all at once. The signal had arrived before it was sent, carried intelligent design, and now, it seemed, demanded understanding. Humanity had been given a glimpse of knowledge from a future yet to come. And the more the researchers delved, the clearer it became. This message was only the beginning of a journey that would challenge the very foundation of human understanding. The signal existed, it was structured, it was deliberate, and its secrets were waiting just beyond the limits of comprehension. The unsettling implications. After months of analysis, debates, and sleepless nights, one truth became undeniable. The signal was not random. It was intelligent, it was deliberate, it was adaptive, and it had arrived before it could exist. Every attempt to rationalize it within known physics failed. Every theory, from wormholes to quantum entanglement, could explain fragments but never the totality. The signal defied every law, every expectation, every assumption humanity had about the universe. The implications were staggering. If an intelligence can send messages backward through time, then the very concept of linear history is flawed. Cause may not precede effect. Knowledge may not be limited by temporal constraints. The future could influence the present, guiding discoveries, shaping civilizations, and altering outcomes in ways humanity cannot yet comprehend. Some scientists speculated that this intelligence operates on a scale beyond imagination. A civilization that has mastered physics, time, and information to a degree that renders human technology primitive. The signal itself could be a test, a way to gauge humanity's capacity for understanding, observation, and interpretation. Others dared to consider an even more unsettling idea, that the signal represents a warning, a message designed to prepare, guide, or manipulate. If intelligence can send information backward through time, could it also intervene in critical events? Could it have influenced human history, technology, or understanding without anyone realizing? The notion sent shivers through the teams analyzing the data. Philosophers and physicists alike wrestled with existential questions. If time is not absolute, if reality is mutable, then humanity's perception of free will, choice, and consequence may be incomplete. Every decision could be subtly informed by knowledge from a future that has already occurred. The boundaries between past, present, and future blur, leaving only uncertainty, awe, and profound curiosity. And yet, amid the fear, there was fascination. The signal represents an invitation, a glimpse into a universe far more complex, intelligent, and dynamic than humans have imagined. It challenges scientists to push the limits of understanding, to question every assumption, to explore the frontiers of physics, time, and cognition. The final unsettling thought remains. If such a message exists, if intelligence can manipulate time, then humanity may not be alone. The universe may be teeming with entities, civilizations, or consciousnesses operating on temporal scales and principles that humans cannot fully perceive. The signal is a reminder that reality is far stranger, more intricate, and more mysterious than the brightest minds have dared to imagine. This is not science fiction. This is data, observation, and undeniable anomaly. It is a paradox that forces us to confront what is possible, what is probable, and what is entirely beyond comprehension. The signal has arrived before it existed to challenge humanity's understanding of everything. And as the last sequences of the signal pulse through observatories around the world, one thing is clear. The universe is alive with possibility, intelligence, and mystery. It has reached across time to communicate with humanity. It has dared us to notice, to think, and to understand. The signal exists. It is intelligent. It defies causality, and the question it leaves behind is far more terrifying and thrilling than anything humanity has ever faced. What comes next when the future is already speaking to us? If you like content like this and want more premium science documentaries that explore the deepest mysteries of the universe, hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe.